birthday shout-outs to Mom, turning 74 today. All right, we'll take a break. Oh, we got the stream up, by the way. So if you, maybe. There it is. The stream is up, Rogers. So if anyone is used to watching us on the YouTube channel is up and running. I hope it sounds good. I don't know, but hopefully it's sounding okay. And we've got it going. So if anyone's used to watching the YouTube stream, I highly recommend that you go put it on and see if you can hear me, because we are up on the YouTube channel. So that is a cool thing. I did not expect that to happen, but we figured out a way to make it happen. All right. It is the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger, 103.3 FM. He would be Rogers. I would be Patrick. Okay, we got audio. Rogers, the stream is working. I'm watching it on my television right now. What a world. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. It's more of the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger, 103.3 FM. And the YouTube channel, we're back up, youtube.com/@Netherton Show. We'll be back. All right. We welcome you back. It is the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger. Hey, don't forget, we are also up on the YouTube channel. So if you are used to watching us on the YouTube channel, we have that up and rolling. It is, Rogers, let's be honest, it's probably too close to my face for most people's comfort zones, but at least it works. So if you are used to watching us on the YouTube channel, the YouTube channel is going, and happy to have you. The apparently it is seems to be okay, so we're happy to have that. And I think it sounds okay. I'm going to double check and make sure. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I can hear myself. I'm actually, Rogers, this is weird. This is kind of some Inception going on here. I'm watching myself on television while I'm sitting here, which normally, we do in the studio. We'll put the thing on TV, but this is a little strange. Rogers, we do have breaking news in the NFL. And it is a done deal. Kirk Cousins heading to the Atlanta Falcons to be the new Falcons head coach. So it was rumored that that might happen, and it has now happened. So there you go. Kirk Cousins making his way to Atlanta. And now the Falcons are a lot better than they were before. By the way, I do have to laugh with Fletcher this morning, referring to him as Desmond Ridder as De Ridder. That definitely made me laugh. I'm not going to lie. Rogers, what do you think? Kirk Cousins in Atlanta scares you? Don't care? Best years are behind him? Still has some juice? What do you thought? Yeah, it certainly does feel that way. Um, okay. Yeah, I okay. Yeah. Now the one thing I will tell the YouTube channel people is you will not hear Rogers. When we get the audio coming back down the line, which we're working on, when we get that, then you'll be able to hear Rogers. Unfortunately, right now you're not going to hear Rogers. You're not going to hear the audio coming back from the station, and apologies for that. So, yeah, it feels like there's the funny thing about it is. It is three quarterbacks that are veterans and still have a lot to prove, right? Like Baker Mayfield is not a guy that you look at and go, oh, he's, top 5, top 10. This guy is elite. This guy is it's a big deal and how good he is, all that. You don't think about that. He's kind of a reclamation project. And it went very well last year in year one. Kirk Cousins, right, had some success in Minnesota. The injury is a huge question mark now as he has to come back off of that. So I do wonder a little bit with what we'll see in terms of the abilities of Kirk Cousins to bounce back from injury and to potentially do something with an Atlanta team that's got some pieces. Their defense isn't bad. They ran it very well with Arthur Smith, It feels like there's some pieces in place for Atlanta, and that the quarterback was the thing that was holding them back. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. And then in obviously New Orleans, you've got Derek Carr, who has thrown for 1 billion yards and a bunch of touchdowns, and has had a pretty good quarterback rating for the majority of his career. But he's a guy that needs to also prove himself and figure out how to kind of be the guy and lead a team that goes, beyond just hey, we're happy to be fighting for a division, to we need to be fighting for an opportunity to get to the playoffs, and then to make a run in the playoffs, right? That's what it feels like that you have with that squad. So yeah, a lot of interesting things to consider, to think about when it comes to the NFC South now. Um, does this change we will. I don't know. That's going to make the Eagles a player again, especially with Jalen. Uh, or we'll do this audio. Okay. All right. Well, not ideal for the YouTube channel, but at least you'll have audio for the time being. So we'll get you back up and running that way, and I'll work on all these settings. This is again the first time we are doing we're doing this, so at least the audio is coming through. So apologies to everyone on the YouTube channel. Again, this is our first time getting everything running all at the same time, and it certainly can be a little bit of a struggle. So um, hopefully we'll get it all figured out and before it's all said and done. But I would love some thoughts if you are watching on the YouTube channel. Give me some thoughts on what you're seeing and how it looks, how it sounds, all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, somebody mentioned the confessional headboard. I am actually in my bedroom. I'm literally doing the show in my bed. Rogers, I don't know if that's too sexy for everyone out there, but yeah, I'm literally sitting in my bed doing the show. So you get to see what my headboard looks like if you're on the YouTube channel. You can see that. As Cocky mentioned, with the YouTube audio gone, he said you're in front of the confessional, and yeah, this is actually my headboard. I inherited from my mom, and it is like it's like a Pakistani um, changing screen. You know, like what do they call it? Like a modesty screen or whatever. You know, so like you these things have hinges, and you'd like set it up, and you'd go behind there, and you know go back there, and that's where you would change. But yeah, this is a one of those kind of modesty screens. It's from Pakistan. My grandmother picked it up while she was in Pakistan, and it is the headboard. So yeah, if you want to know what if you want to know what the bedroom in the old Netherton chateau looks like, this is it. This is my headboard. So congratulations on finding that out. I'm sure that's information everyone out there wanted to know about. Let me get to some text, and then we'll take a break, and we'll come back and talk about the East Bank Mafia barbecue that went on. We've also got to get into LSU and South Carolina and what went down at the end of that. We'll preview a little bit of the SEC tournament. Again, as of right now, I believe the plan is no show for me on Thursday because LSU's playing at noon, and with that, there will be no no show for me. So that's the thought process anyway, as far as I know, as of right now, with LSU playing at noon. If they win over Mississippi State, then they will turn around and play again at noon on Friday against the number one seed Tennessee. All right. Let me get a couple texts, and then we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about LSU and South Carolina. Mark in Arkansas says audio sounds great when your mic is on, or when your mic isn't unplugged. What's a dial tone? That's true. You know that's a good point, Mark. We you don't hear dial tones anymore. You know it's a you click the thing and you put the number in and you press send and it calls. You don't hear, you know, it's not like picking up a rotary phone or an old school landline. You don't have that anymore. Sleepy Jerry said, great time at the East Bank on Saturday. How'd you enjoy it? Well, we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. I'm going to break down the whole thing. Bent Tree Barbecue said, I'm just tuning in, so not sure if you mentioned it, but thanks for being part of the barbecue competition this weekend. It was an outstanding event and my first competition. Hope you liked my third place brisket and got some of the smoked banana pudding. Brother, that smoked banana pudding was divine. We weren't judging desserts. and I'll get into all of this as I tell the story, but I was not in charge of doing desserts. I was mad about that. Like, why can't I judge desserts as well as brisket and ribs and all of that chicken? But yeah, we didn't get to judge desserts, and so unfortunately for me, I didn't get to eat it until after. But they put all the desserts out on the table. We were between, I believe we were between ribs and brisket, and so you know what? We just went to town. And there was one dude in there that had been a little bit overserved, and he like you would have thought the desserts were his lifeline to humanity. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. It was hysterical. Um, yes, so we'll talk more about the barbecue competition when we get an opportunity to coming up after the break. One or two more texts to get to before we head to the break. Let's see. Let me get my sorry, I got to get my text pulled up here. Double J said, just tuning in. Stupid daylight saving time. I thought you were in a mosque. Yeah, it's my headboard. I mean, I would love to sit here and try to tell you that people have you get in here and they're people are seeing God in this in here, but that's not the case. It's just me in here. Nobody else gets to see this thing except me, and I don't know if that's I don't know if that's good or bad or not. Might be a little bit sad, but such is life. All right, that's all the text. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the East Bank Mafia barbecue competition. We've also got to talk a little LSU women's basketball in the little kerfuffle towards the end of that South Carolina game. And then we will chat about whatever else is on your mind. It's the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger, 103.3 FM. We are up on the YouTube channel. So if you're used to catching us there, you can catch us there, youtube.com/@Netherton Show. And please make sure that you subscribe to the channel while you're there. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Oh, we're not back. All right, we are back. Welcome you to the Patrick Netherton show right here in 1130. Hope everyone is having themselves a wonderful day. It's a good day for us. Happy to have you here with us and as part of the show. It's weird. The audio on the YouTube channel just keeps like dancing around. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off. It's very strange. Anyway, we're persevering, man. The good news is I do have the ability to adjust on the fly, and sometimes we got to do that. So if we got to adjust on the fly a little bit, so be it. He's Rogers Hampton. Hambone, I do have a question for you, my friend. Is it awesome to be in the studio by yourself, or do you miss me? Okay. I appreciate having some part of you missing me. Sure, sure, only child, yeah. Mm-hmm. No, you're never alone in that new studio. Well, here's okay, Rogers. Would you rather be alone with the people that are walking around in the studios, or would you rather be alone with occasionally the vagrant that shows up at the outside window of the old studio? Yeah, tough decision, right? Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's kind of society today, Rogers. Just that's true. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Sometimes you just have to get creative, Rogers. Creative problems require creative solutions. There you go. Well, that's good. And unfortunately, the poor YouTube channel people have to look at me up close. Oh well, we can. Might take a picture for you, Rogers. No, 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 no. We won't. It won't. It won't be a computer thing. Yeah, yeah. It's fun, man. It's what you want to see happen. You want to be. I will say this: it's good and bad, right? The transfer portal in college basketball is both good and bad. It's good because I think it gives freedom to the players to move around and kind of do what they want to do and play where they want to play, all that kind of stuff. But it's bad because it ruins continuity on teams, right? We're used to, back in the day, and this hasn't really been the case for probably 5, 6, 7 years now. But there is a bit of a hey, you're used to people being, a guy showing up and maybe he plays a few minutes a game in his freshman year and then he gets a little bit better as a sophomore and he gets, then by a junior and senior year, he's a star. And, maybe that senior year he has his best year possible and all of that. But we don't really see that in in the realm of college basketball anymore and college football anymore, right? Guys don't stay for 4 years anymore, especially in college basketball, where between the transfer portal and those guys being able to graduate early. You know, if you got a guy that's really good, he's going to leave early and declare for the draft. That makes things a little bit more difficult. And so I will say that kind of is a bother for me. I enjoy when you like Rogers. Do you remember? Does the name Max Asmus mean anything to you? So Max Asmus, it's spelled Abmas. It's spelled like Abmus or Abmus, but it's pronounced Asmus. Max Asmus was an absolute killer. I believe he played at Oakland University and was just an incredible player. Like, 3-point shooter, one of the top point scorers in the history of the game, all of that. And, he was kind of synonymous with the, I'm going to look it up real quick, Rogers. I got to remember where he was from. He's a very, ORU, Oral Roberts, Oakland. They're kind of the same. They look the same. So Asmus was at Oral Roberts and was a star at Oral Roberts, was just unbelievable while he was there. And just ups and leaves and goes to Texas. Now, I'm not against a guy wanting to take an opportunity to go and advance to a bigger school and be a part of a bigger school. I think that's really cool, right? I love the idea of a guy getting to advance and getting to play at the highest level and challenging himself and all of that. But it's also costing Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts is the team that got him and found him and built him. And then, now, to his credit, he did give Oral Roberts several good years. It's not like he left after 1 year. But it does kind of suck because you're like, man, I can't wait to see what Asmus looks like at Oral Roberts in that last year. And then he's in Austin. So that part does bother me to some degree. But I get it. And I'm all for player movement. I'm all for freedom of movement. It just sort of sucks for me personally that the movement does cost us a chance to really get to know guys in those scenarios, right? That's the only part that sucks. All right, let's talk about the East Bank Mafia Barbecue Festival that went down on Saturday. So it was present. If you've never been out, the East Bank Mafia is Bojack's Craft House, and I think there's a Seventh Tap over there, and the Bayou Axe Throwing, and the Frozen Pyro. There's like all of these little buildings, all in what's known as the East Bank, which is right there across the river on East Texas. So, or it is Texas, isn't it? Right? I think so. Yeah. So you have the East Bank Mafia, and they are all these buildings, right, and all these businesses. So they had decided to host a barbecue festival. So what they did is they invited a bunch of pit masters and whatnot from around the area, and they decided to go ahead and have their own barbecue competition. So they end up with 15 teams that were competing, and the 15 teams were competing in chicken, in ribs, and brisket for meats, and then they could also do a dessert if they wanted to. There was the only caveat was the dessert had to be smoked in some way, right? So they had dessert, and then they had a People's Choice competition where if you showed up at the East Bank, you paid your $5, I think it was, to get in. You got a wristband, and then you could go around to all of the 15 competitors and go and sample whatever they were serving. There was one group that was doing burnt ends. There was one group that was doing like nachos. There was one group that was doing turkey, and let me tell you something. That was one of the best, most tender turkeys I've ever had in my entire life. It was unbelievable. So you would kind of walk around to all of the various, 15 tents, and you would take a sample, you would eat it, and then you would go, okay, that was either amazing or not good or whatever. I think someone were doing tacos. There was some sausage over there, whatever. And then you had a vote, and I think it was money that was the thing. I can't remember if it was money or tickets, whatever it was. You voted for the people's choice meal or snack or whatever that you liked the most. And so you would, put your money in or whatever, and whoever won the most was the winner of the people's choice. And then we had a panel of judges that were judging the actual barbecue competition, and then there was a different panel who was judging the desserts. So I was one of the panel that was judging the barbecue, and it was run by the fine folks at Pork and Fork Barbecue, or Pork and Fork, I think it's Pork and Fork. DJ Thomas and their crew did a phenomenal job of running the competition. They've been in competitions before. They kind of know what they're doing. So it was not a sanctioned competition. It wasn't under any sort of rules other than the ones that they kind of created for this competition. So basically what it amounted to was you showed up for us, and we got there at 11, and then at 1:30 it was chicken. And it was basically, they would do half chickens. You'd have a leg, you'd have a breast, a thigh, and a wing. Then, and as the judges, we would cut off a piece, sample it, what was the texture of the skin like? What was the flavor profile? Was it dry? Was it, if it was undercooked, obviously we're not eating it. You don't eat undercooked chicken. But yeah, was it good, bad, whatever. So we did that, and then we scored everything. Then we did 15 of them, and then we'd score. Then the next time was ribs, and we'd cut off a piece of the rib. You'd eat it. The only thing I don't like about those is the idea that you don't really get to get your hands on it, right? Like you can't do the pull test on brisket to see if it comes off well, if it's cooked correctly. And you don't really get to take that bite out of that rib to see if the meat comes off the way it should. For a correctly cooked rib, you take a bite of the rib and there should be a bite mark left on it. It shouldn't be tough. You shouldn't have to really, force the meat off the bone. But all the meat shouldn't come off the bone at once. That's overcooked, right? When you see or hear fall off the bone ribs, those are overcooked ribs. So it was a matter of, okay, let's, we're going to slice off. You had to use a knife and fork, slice off a piece of the rib, try that. And then we had brisket that was done at 5:30. Well, between 3:30 and 5:30 was the dessert competition. And so they bring in all these desserts. And I mean, there's like empanadas, and there was a seemed like kind of a custard, and everything had to be smoked. Like they had to incorporate smoke somewhere into the recipe. The one that won first place was a smoked banana pudding. From what I understand, they smoked the bananas, then they did the pudding and they smoked the pudding, then they sliced the smoked bananas and the pudding and they combined them, and then they smoked that. Then they put some of those big, I don't remember what they're called, they're like big wafers. They put it's not the Nilla wafers, it's like the big square ones that have a little design on them or whatever. They put those on top, and then I think they went back and smoked the whole thing again. So there was a definite smoky flavor to that. There was someone who did muffins that were really good, and they had a very real smoke flavor. And one of the judges, who's our buddy Andrew Caskey from Bad Wolf Barbecue in Ruston, said he thought they might have used beef tallow in place of like a regular oil, because it tasted very beefy. Which was good. Like I don't get the impression that it was bad. It was really good. All the desserts are really good. But the one that intrigued me most, and Rogers, this is one that I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on. You didn't get to taste it, obviously, so I'll be curious just your thoughts on it in general because you are a burnt end guy. Rogers likes a good burnt end. Well, someone did a cinnamon roll burnt end. It was regular burnt ends, brisket that they had smoked and sauced and then smoked again to get them nice and tender. And then they covered it with cinnamon and sugar and butter, I believe, and then smoked it again. So you had this salty, beefy, umami burnt end with that sweet cinnamon sugar on top of it. It was a delightful balance of flavors. And I'm curious, Rogers, your thoughts on a burnt end with sort of a cinnamon icing on top of it. I would be I actually would be legit. Like, here's the one thing: would you try it first? Yeah, would you try it though? Okay, I will tell you, it was one of the best bites I've had of anything in a long time. You would think the sugar and the salt wouldn't work together, but they worked perfectly together. It was remarkable. If I had a vote, it would have been the number one dessert. Even though I love banana pudding and I love that smoked banana pudding, for my mind, in my estimation, that cinnamon roll burnt in was the best bite of anything I had the entire day. The brisket, ribs, chicken, all of that. That cinnamon roll burnt in was spectacular. So you had a mixture in there of teams that have competed before with folks who have done this before. They've been there, they've done that, they've been in competition barbecue before. And then you had a mixture of sort of backyard barbecue folks who've never done this before. And you could really tell in the plating. They give you a box and you put your brisket, you slice up brisket and put it in there, or you lay your ribs in there, or you put your chicken in there. And you could really tell, especially with brisket and ribs, you could tell the teams that have done competitions before because they would put garnish in there. They would put some kind of spinach or kale or something in there kind of as a bed for the barbecue that they were putting on top of it. So you could legitimately see the teams that have done that before. So appearance, those teams tended, in my estimation, to grade higher because their boxes looked prettier. The ribs would be arranged just right. They would stack them, 4x4 on top of each other. They'd look very pretty in appearance. The brisket would look appetizing or would have a nice bark, or, it would be arranged really well in the box, that kind of thing. But there were a couple that were not good. And there were some ribs that were a little off. There was one set of ribs that I'm not sure they even seasoned them, which, look, it's okay to want to let the pork and the smoke work for you, but it was reasonably flavorless on those ribs. And then we got to the last run of briskets, and we had already, we've already eaten 15 bites of chicken. We've eaten 15 bites of ribs. Most of the time, they'd put the boxes off to the side, and we'd go back in and keep sampling after the fact. And we would end up, we'd eat, you go back, oh, well, 6 was really good. Let's go back and everyone go, remember this? And so you'd kind of go back through and you'd take bites of stuff. Here's the ones we really liked. And, we thought this one was really good. Because as judges, you are not necessarily you're not supposed to communicate during the course of the competition. So we wouldn't. We would kind of, we were good. We would not communicate. Speaking of judges, there was a whole bevy of folks. Guy who runs the Bayou Axe throwing, guy who runs the Seventh Tap. There was some of the guys from there locally, and then You had Andrew Caskey, who I mentioned from Bad Wolf Barbecue, which is my favorite barbecue in the state of Louisiana. And then we had one really sort of actual celebrity who was there, and that's Daryl Walker, who runs Sweetie's Barbecue down in Natchitoches. And Sweetie has been a high level barbecue competitor for a long time. He's had top 10 finishes for different categories at Memphis in May and the Kansas City, whatever it is, the charcoal thing, mesquite, whatever. Like they've had, he's had some really good high finishes in some really impressive categories. And so Sweetie was there. And it was funny because Andrew and Daryl, aka Sweetie, their interpretations of other people's barbecue was fascinating because Andrew does brisket about as well as anyone can do it. Sweetie does ribs. We laughed because his ribs, he calls his ribs fall off the bone ribs, and I'm like, come on, Sweetie, don't do that. He's like, man, he's like, they're tender. I was like, I don't mind if they're tender, just let's not say they're fall off the bone. And we had a night. By the way, we're gonna have Sweetie on the show here before too long. I definitely want to have him on. He's a great guy and a great character. So, we kind of went through that, and what we ultimately found out was there was some pretty good brisket, and there was some really, really poor brisket. I was actually a little bit shocked at some of the like one I sliced off a bit and I went to chew it and I couldn't finish it. Like it was so the connective tissue was still intact. And so I'm like chewing, 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 and I can't actually get through it. So that's the only bite that I spit out the entire day. Now apparently a lot of other folks were spitting out bites left and right. I didn't do that. That was the only bite that I spit out was that one. But yeah, it was the competition though was great. The people were fantastic. It was a lively scene. They had bands, all of that. It was really just a lot of fun. So they're going to do it again next year. They had a couple of different bands that were in there, and it was just a blast. So if you get an opportunity, the East Bank folks, Bo Hayes and his crew, just let them know, man. That was a great event. There was a packed house, a lot of folks showing up for the barbecue competition to eat the barbecue. Then they had one of the official Kiss, officially licensed Kiss tribute bands, Rock and Roll Over. They were there and getting after it. So just a good time was had by all out in the East Bank. So big thanks to Bo and Brian and DJ for inviting me out to be a part of it and putting on such a tremendous event. It was great times. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Let's talk about South Carolina and LSU and what went down in that one, as that was a bit of a mess at the end. It was a good game until the very end, and we'll discuss what, if anything, needs to be done and reactions to it, all of that. It's the Patrick Netherton Show, 103.3 FM, 1130 The Tiger, also over on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ Netherton Show. Go subscribe to the channel while you're there. We'll be back. Need to be reminded. Unfortunately, the YouTube channel viewers have no idea what I'm listening to. Got to shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. That's right. And of course, they, as far as I know, Rogers, they played all the hits. I honestly did not stick around for the Kiss tribute band. I was, uh, I was tired, brother. Been there since 11 a.m. Judged and eaten a lot of barbecue, including a bunch of desserts. So I was out. So I got the heck out of there and headed home. But I understand the concert was good from people that were there and enjoyed it. I think our boy Trey went, as far as I know. Cocky said NCAA first round live remote next Thursday? Question mark. Probably not. Maybe. You know, I don't know. We'll kind of have to see what happens. We've done the first round of the tournament from Dax from time to time down on the Southern Loop. So maybe we'll see if we can't get something going. The good news is I am off next weekend. I'm off this weekend as well, and off next weekend. So maybe an opportunity to do that. We'll see. Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. Rogers and Patrick, that's us. Again, we are up on the YouTube channel if you are so inclined to want to check us out there. YouTube.com/@Netherton Show. And of course, make sure that you subscribe to the channel while you're there. We would greatly appreciate it. Chuck said, I was out at the East Bank Saturday looking for you and Rogers. You for barbecue and Rogers for beer, plus the Kiss tribute band. Yeah, unfortunately, Chuck, it was a little late for both me and Rogers. If that's Rogers, if that's a 6 o'clock concert on Saturday, 7 o'clock concert on Saturday, maybe, right? Maybe. I said maybe. I didn't say definitely. It was nice though. Right, no, that's what I'm saying. The concert at 9, like, no. No. But 6 o'clock? Yeah, well, it's true. Yes, we did. And actually, I got to talk to Bo Hayes a little bit, who is the proprietor of Bojack's, and he's kind of the creator of the East Bank Mafia. And I talked to him about the Geek Con, and we brought Murr and Joey Fatone and all those guys out there, and then the next year, Hambone was out there, and just and he was saying how great it was and how how much fun they had. And then of course that thing, I guess it burned down or got knocked down by weather of some kind, and then tornado, yeah. Yeah, and then they've rebuilt it. It looks fantastic. It is beautiful out there. It looks great. So if you hear of a concert there at the East Bank, I highly recommend you get out there and enjoy it, especially now as the weather changes and we start to get it gets, as Roger said, lighter later. So Chuck, apologies. I was there from about 11 till 6:15, and had been eating barbecue all day and then ate all those desserts. So I was ready to go home. So I took off. They did have a great crowd though, from what I saw. It looked like there were a lot of people there. Typically, I like to stick around to see the barbecue results when I'm judging. I like to see who, okay, that was, what, but we don't ever know what groups they are. So, I don't know if the group that finished first, did I have them rated highly? I don't know. That you just the way that the judging is set up as a double blind comparison, we just don't know. So I was like, and again, with mom at home and kind of need to make sure she had a sitter on Saturday, and I needed to kind of make sure that she was relieved, and I could get back out and take care of her from that point. So I kind of needed to be back home. And by the way, while I'm talking about it, the basketball season ended a couple of days ago for NSU, our home basketball season anyway, last weekend, or last Monday, a week ago today. And I just wanted to thank all the people that are kind of involved with my various productions, whether it be over on the Northwestern State side with James Stanfield and David Antilli and our athletic director Kevin Bostian, whether it be over on the radio side, Rogers and Fletch and Greg. It's a blessing to work for a lot of people that understand and are willing to be flexible and be willing to kind of take what happens and what's going on in my life. And I really appreciate Rogers, you're obviously on that list as well. Like just the ability for all of you guys to be understanding, to not get mad at me when I have to maybe cancel a show late or do the show from here, that kind of thing. I really appreciate everyone who has kind of been a part of this and is understanding of what we're going through. So thanks to all of my folks, and I'm lucky. I'm very blessed to have a large group of people from the Northwestern State side and a large group of people from the Town Square Media side who are very understanding and very willing to kind of let me get through a lot of this stuff that we're having to get through. So big kudos to everyone for helping out. All right, we haven't talked about the LSU South Carolina deal. Double J real quickly said those burn ends sound like they should be marketed as king cake brisket during Mardi Gras. Yeah, you could, man. Those burn ends were insane. It was basically, they called them the cinnamon roll burn ends. It was just cinnamon, sugar, and butter on top of a brisket burn end. And so you get that initial sort of sweetness that hits you, kind of hits the front of your palate. And then as you chew that burn end, you get that saltiness and that umami, and it is just a spectacular melding of flavors. I could not have been more impressed with how that was handled. Again, that would have been my number. That was probably the best bite I ate all day of anything, and it was in the dessert category, and I wasn't even judging desserts. So kudos to whoever put together. I think it was actually maybe the Pork and Fork guys or the Caltex guys. I saw somebody post them after the fact, and I even told them, I said, that's one of the best bites I've ever had. Those cinnamon roll burn ends. All right, LSU South Carolina. So good game, back and forth. South Carolina kind of had control for most of it, and then LSU would make a couple of make a couple of runs at them, and South Carolina would kind of come up with the answer. It was the game you wanted it to be. Michaela Williams was back on the floor. Last year, Poa was not after that really scary. She tried to take a charge and ended up hitting or slamming her head into the floor. And it brings up one of my least favorite aspects of college athletics, and that is the idea that for whatever reason we have this mentality of a player goes down, the trainer does not need to immediately go look at them. They want the player to try to get up, or just say, is it something you can kind of shake off, walk off, one of those type of things, because if once the trainer hits the floor, well, now the player has to leave the game. So there's this very real thought, and watch, like pay attention when you're watching games and see how often someone will tweak their ankle, roll their ankle, or they'll come down awkwardly, or whatever. And the trainers will not come out on the floor. They will wait. They'll stand there right on the sideline and they'll wait to see what the player does. If the player gets up and they're okay, then they don't have to come out of the ball game. But once the trainer enters goes onto the floor, well, now that player has to be lifted. And so, in light of that, last year Poa goes down, slams the back of her head onto the floor, and she is lying there, and you can tell she's concussed. Like she's immediately grabbing her head. She's showing all the signs of a concussion. And, her teammates go over there and they're looking at her. And then one of them grabs her and starts yanking her up off the floor. I think it was Angel Reese. And I'm like, do not touch that girl. She just had a massive collision with her head and the floor. You need to leave her be. Well, they kind of start to get her. And then here come the trainers out, and Kim Mulkey comes out. And they pick her up and they start to try to walk her off the floor, and she collapses. They end up putting her back down on the floor. They put her in a neck brace and get her out of there. Apparently the concussion was such that she was somewhat incoherent. Kim Mulkey talking about how she wasn't, a lot of stuff she was saying kind of wasn't making sense. And so there was, this sort of, okay, we need to slow it down, put her back down, neck brace, stretcher, all of that stuff. That's what should have happened at the beginning. But this idea that the trainers can't immediately go on the floor for an injury because the player's going to have to come out of the game is crazy. Because the trainers needed to be there immediately. They needed to be the first ones that were looking at her. They needed to be there to make sure she wasn't going to be moved. Right? It didn't look like a bad neck injury of any kind, but the first thing that happens is Angel Reese goes to pick her up, and it makes sense, right? Trying to help her up off the ground, and her head's flopping around. I'm like, leave her alone. Then they tried to walk her off the floor, and she couldn't. So we need something where the trainers can get out on the floor immediately and assess something. If it's one thing, if a player just rolls their ankle and they're trying to walk it off, that's one thing. But this was very clearly a bad injury from the get-go. The way she slammed her head, and funny enough, for some reason, they never showed a replay of it, even though it wasn't a gruesome injury. It was, ESPN, they teach you to not show, if it's a gruesome injury, the leg snapping, something like, don't show that. But they didn't show it at all. And so I went back on the broadcast and just recorded it real quick and tweeted it and said, okay, for those that, you can see how hard she hit her head. And then that went all over the damn world. I was in the Daily Mail over in the UK. I was on Yahoo Sports. I was on AOL Sports. I was on the AP. The AP even ran my tweet just because no one seemed to have video of it for some reason. I don't know why. It was very strange. All right, so LSU, South Carolina, we get to the end. There's a little fracas, a little brouhaha. You have Flau'jae Johnson getting into it with one of the South Carolina players, and then Cardoso, the big 6'6" kid, comes over and pushes Flau'jae down. You got Flau'jae's brother that jumps out of the stands, goes over the scorer's table to try to get in the mix, and it just looked like he was protecting his sister. It wasn't like he was, coming out swinging or anything. He goes over the table, and then a cop comes right over the table after him, instantaneously, grabs him and walks him off the floor. Security gets over to the fan section to keep the other relatives or friends of Flau'jae Johnson from getting involved. They take about 20 minutes to review everything. They kick both benches out. South Carolina was finishing with 6 players because they had the 5 players on the floor, plus they had a player at the scorer's table getting ready to check in, and the entire LSU bench gets kicked out. You had a flagrant on Flau'jae Johnson on the initial, which was it was a steal. Flau'jae kind of grabbed the jersey, grabbed the player. That was the intentional foul, and then Cardoso gets kicked out for the shove and knocking Flau'jae Johnson down. That was called a fighting penalty. And so she gets ejected from the game, and LSU plays with 5 players, and South Carolina plays with 6. South Carolina ends up winning the game. The real issue seems to be the post game comments. Dawn Staley very much, hey, my team, we shouldn't have acted like that. I'm sorry that, this for everybody who was watching, that's not how we should be. Sorry this happened. And Kim Mulkey, kind of the same vein, but then also was saying, well, I wish Cardozo would have come in and pushed Angel Reese instead of pushing Flau'jae Johnson. If you're 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", or whatever, you shouldn't be picking on the little kid. Picking on the little man, which, Flau'jae's a smaller guard. And I get the concept and the idea of it, but it's not the time to say it at all. Like, this is one of those you got to go, hey, this is not appropriate for our team. We shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't have people coming off the bench. We shouldn't be responding. Flau'jae should not have committed the intentional to start with. This is not good conduct. And instead, she kind of flipped it and blamed South Carolina a little bit, which is sort of Mulkey's personality. And it's just a reinforcement of how everyone outside of Mulkey's team and fan base feels about her. And it was that way at Baylor. She wouldn't stand up for Brittany Griner and apparently opposed the statue for Brittany Griner. And it appears to be the same way at LSU. So now LSU fans are kind of the bad guys because they support Kim Mulkey. And now Mulkey's back out there saying all kind of abrasive things. Dawn Staley gave a master class in how to handle it. I'm sorry, apologize to the fans who were watching. Our team shouldn't have acted like that. It was a heated game, a lot of emotions, but we have to be better than that. And Mulkey's saying, well, I wish Cardozo would have pushed someone bigger than her, or bigger than Flau'jae Johnson. Just not a master class in PR. Not that Mulkey cares. She's won multiple championships. She's the active most winning coach in college basketball, men or women, in terms of winning percentage. It's not like she needs to, shouldn't have to go out there and say anything she doesn't want to. She's earned the right to say her mind, to speak her mind. But I wish she would have handled it with a little more tact in that scenario. All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back and wrap this bad boy up. It is the Patrick Netherton Show. Would love your thoughts. Give us a text on the Bobby L. Green Plumbing text line, 318-657-0HAM, 318-657-0426. We'll be right back. Hey, we welcome you back. It is the Patrick Netherton Show right here in 1130 The Tiger. 101, 101 Rogers? No, 103.3 FM would be the FM side. Really happy to have you with us. Appreciate you bearing with us as we kind of get through the technical gremlins that we're dealing with, trying to get through and get on the air and get on the YouTube channel, all that stuff. So appreciate you bearing with us as we kind of went through all of that, and super happy to have you back with us. It is the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger, 103.3 FM, and over on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/@Netherton Show. That's youtube.com/@Netherton Show if you want to find us over there. That is where we are. And still making it. Audio still hanging in there, even though we had to switch the audio feed, all that. So if you want to get in touch with the show, you can. Bobby L. Green Plumbing, text line 318-657-0HAM, 318-657-0426. It is our friends at Bobby L. Green Plumbing, and we are so appreciative of them for their continued support of the show. They were basically our first sponsor, and they remain our longest tenured sponsor. And by the way, if you want to sponsor the show, there are openings available. Even when I'm at home, there are, Bobby L. Green Plumbing still gets advertising, whether it's on the radio or they get good advertising on the YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, they are sitting up just past my head over here on the YouTube channel. So if you're used to seeing them, they are right there. And it's an easy way for you to see just how good they are. Again, Bobby L. Green Plumbing, 631-0235. That's 631-0235 if you'd like to get in touch with them. They're also available at greenplumbing.com. That is GREENE plumbing.com if you want to find them there as well. They have discounts available, discounts for senior citizens, for first responders, all kind of discounts available from the fine folks at Bobby L. Green Plumbing. They are so good at what they do. They handle your plumbing, your sewer lines, backflow, backfill. You got problems with all of that stuff, they've got that handled. And then they also can take care of you with your heating issues and AC. They do AC now as well, and gas. So all kind of stuff available for you. Bobby L. Green Plumbing and Heating, greenplumbing.com. A couple of texts to get to before we get out of here. Chuck said, I never thought something like those burnt ends would work until I had candied pork belly. Yeah, I tell people all the time, the best single bite of barbecue I've ever had is still Heim Barbecue's candied burnt ends. Then it's a pork belly. It's not, traditional burnt ends are from the brisket. Well, they did pork belly, which is, it ends up being basically candied bacon. That's essentially what it is candied bacon. But it's just like a chunk of candied bacon. And it is remarkable. I continue to say the Heim Barbecue candied pork belly burnt ends are the best that I've ever had. They are spectacular. Pumpman said the refs in the LSU game are to blame for letting the game get out of hand. If the Tigers had two more players, I believe they would have won. Yeah, there's a lot of people pointing at the officiating, and I can see that. It was a very physical game. There was a lot of jawing. I wouldn't have minded the officials getting everyone together at some point, maybe right out of a timeout, and just saying, look, we're not gonna tolerate the talking anymore. Don't taunt each other. Like, celebrate with your team, move on. If we start to see any taunting or we start to see any talking, then we will, react accordingly. Technicals and all that stuff. Friendship Academy said, I have one of those screens that's right behind you. Had it for about 30 years. Yeah, like I said, this was my mom's. My grandmother actually got it in Pakistan. And my mom had it forever and ever and turned it into a headboard. And it actually is a really impressive headboard, to say the least. I wish more people could see it, but it's basically just me in my bedroom at all times. Sad face. Hambone, we made it through, my friend. All right. Well, hey, boy. Well, I hate I didn't get to see your beautiful face. I, haven't seen my boy Hambone for a few days now. It's sad times for me. We'll see how it all works out, my friend. All right. So for Hambone, I'm Patrick. Y'all be safe and careful out there, everyone. It's a pretty day, a little chilly, but still very pretty. Maybe get out and go for a walk. I'm going to do that a little later this afternoon, and try to enjoy some nature. And hey, find Hambone over on Twitter at HeyBoyRogers and tell him you miss him, because I got to tell him I miss him because I haven't seen him in so long. All right, for Rogers, I'm Patrick. Y'all be safe and careful out there, everyone. Want to see you back here tomorrow from 1 to 3, whether I'm in studio or in my bedroom alone or in studio with Rogers. We will see you tomorrow from 1 to 3 on the Patrick Netherton Show.